Hello, please read the story until the end. Then leave a 1 in the comments if you liked it or 0 if you didn't. I wasn't looking for anything. That's the part that still messes with my head. I wasn't snooping or playing detective or following some gut feeling. If anything, I was just being helpful. Amber had asked me to grab her keys from her bag because she was already running late. She needed a few more minutes to finish fixing her hair in the mirror. Totally routine, or so I thought. Her purse was like most women's purses, I guess, organized chaos. Wallet, lipstick, sunglasses, a crumpled receipt here or there, half a stick of gum wrapped in foil. But then my hand brushed against something different. It was tucked deep into one of the inner side pockets, a single folded receipt, neatly creased as if it had been saved on purpose, maybe even hidden. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, maybe. I figured it was probably a return slip or something she meant to keep. But the moment I unfolded it, something shifted. I didn't know what I was looking at first. The logo at the top said Mayan Loon in cursive script. Underneath it, in smaller print, Portland, Oregon. That alone made me pause. We live in Salem. Sure, we've driven through Portland and talked about spending a weekend there for the food scene or maybe going to a concert, but we never had. Not once. And definitely not on a random Thursday night, which is what the date on the receipt showed 2 weeks ago. That was the same Thursday Amber told me she was working late on a client proposal. She even called me around 6 p.m. to apologize in advance for the late night. I made myself dinner, watched a rerun of Parks and Rec, and went to bed before she even got home. When she came in, she kissed me on the forehead and said she didn't want to wake me up. I stared at the list of items on the receipt like it was in another language. Chateau Margaux 2015, $475. Imported truffle chocolates, $82. Silk sheet set, ivory $640. Lou Frage Royal Gourmet Cheese Box, $110. Linen scented candle, hand-poured $39. Wrapping service, romantic gift $12. There was even a little handwritten note at the bottom. Thank you for your purchase, come again soon. Love, Birds with a red heart. I just sat there for a full minute, the air buzzing in my ears. My brain tried to piece it together. Was she planning something, an anniversary surprise? Our anniversary wasn't until September, and it was barely March. Maybe she was getting an early start? But even as the thoughts ran through my mind, I already knew they didn't add up. Amber was never this extravagant. Sure, she liked nice things, but this wasn't her. Not with me, at least. We were Costco wine people, not Chateau Margaux. We had IKEA sheets. I once bought her a $25 candle for Christmas, and she teased me for being so extra. We never bought gourmet cheese unless it was from the deli section at Safeway. Then the timestamp hit me, 7:38 p.m. That's exactly when she said she was still in the office that night. I remembered because I texted her at 7:30 asking if she wanted me to save her leftovers. She replied, still grinding. Don't wait up. I didn't feel angry at first. It was more like a wave of something cold and hollow creeping into my chest, confusion, dread, and a growing realization that I was standing at the edge of something big. Something I couldn't ignore. I folded the receipt and put it back exactly where I found it. I didn't say anything when she came downstairs. She was in a rush, fiddling with her earrings, asking if I'd seen her blue work folder. I handed her the keys and nodded like everything was fine. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You're the best," before hurrying out the door. I watched her go, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel warm when she said that. I felt nothing. That night, I lay in bed pretending to sleep as she showered and slid under the covers beside me. She smelled faintly of lavender and vanilla, the same body wash she always used. But it didn't comfort me. It just made me wonder, who else had smelled it recently? I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling in the dark, the receipt playing on a loop in my head like a movie I didn't want to watch. The more I thought about it, the more questions started stacking up. Why Portland? Who was the gift for? Why hide the receipt? And the biggest one, how much of my life with Amber was real and how much of it was a lie. I'd been too in love to notice. I didn't confront her, not that night, not the next morning, not even the day after when she kissed me goodbye and said she had a working brunch with clients. I said good luck and smiled. I even made her coffee the way she liked it, extra cinnamon, splash of oat milk. She didn't notice my hands were shaking. There was a part of me that wanted to explode, slam the receipt down on the kitchen table and demand the truth. I pictured that moment over and over in my head, her stunned silence, the lies unraveling, the excuses, the look on her face when she realized I knew. But I didn't give her that, not yet. Instead, I chose to observe. In the days that followed, I started paying attention in a way I never had before. Not just listening, but watching. I studied the details like I was living in someone else's home, surrounded by clues. Amber's life was a script, and I'd finally started reading between the lines. She got more careful, more distant. She used to leave her phone face up on the counter while we cooked together. Now it was always face down, tucked into her back pocket or left charging in the bedroom, locked, silent, unreachable. She'd flinch when it buzzed, casually glance to see who it was, then quickly stuff it away. I started noticing patterns. She'd disappear for girls' nights almost weekly now, always with vague explanations, names I didn't recognize, or plans that didn't quite line up. I asked how it went just to see what she'd say. She'd smile too quickly, her eyes not matching the expression. Oh, just catching up, the usual. Once she came home late, claiming they'd stayed out for drinks after dinner. Her lipstick was freshly reapplied, but her hair looked a little too perfect, like she'd redone it in a car mirror. She tossed her heels in the corner, yawned, and said she was exhausted. When I leaned in to kiss her goodnight, she stiffened ever so slightly, almost like guilt had a scent and she was afraid I'd smell it on her skin. She smiled at her phone more, little flickers of something, joy maybe, that I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. Sometimes she'd get a text in the middle of dinner and laugh quietly before excusing herself to the bathroom for 20 minutes. When she came back, she'd pretend nothing happened. I started keeping notes, not in a journal or anything that could be found, but in my head, dates, times, excuses, slip-ups. Every lie was another thread I could trace back to wherever this started. I wasn't looking to catch her in a trap. I wasn't plotting revenge. I just needed to understand. And honestly, there was a small part of me that hoped I was wrong, that I'd misread everything. That I was the paranoid one, projecting some insecurity onto an innocent woman who was just trying to hold our life together, but with each passing day, that part of me got quieter. One afternoon, I watched her from across the living room. She was on the couch, legs curled up, under her laptop, half watching a show she wasn't actually following. Her phone lit up next to her. She read the message, smiled, then turned the screen away from view. That smile, it was soft, private, the kind you give someone who makes your heart race. I hadn't seen that smile in a long time, not directed at me anyway. I asked casually, something funny? She looked up, startled. Your phone. You smiled. Oh, she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Just a meme from Sarah. You know how she is. I nodded, pretending to believe her. Sarah lived in Denver. I hadn't heard her name in months. Later that night, after she went to bed, I sat alone in the dark, replaying everything. I felt like I was living with a stranger who wore my wife's skin. She still said, "I love you," before bed. She still asked about my day. She still kissed me goodbye. But it all felt rehearsed, like she was keeping up the performance because she hadn't figured out her exit strategy yet. What scared me most wasn't the idea that she was cheating, it was how good she was at pretending she wasn't. The mask hadn't slipped once, not really. Not in a way that someone else would notice. To the outside world, we were fine. Smiling couple, weekend brunch, matching Halloween costumes in our photo albums. But I'd started to see the cracks, the little pauses, the deflections. And in those silent gaps between what she said and what I knew, something terrifying grew. The realization that our marriage was already over. She just hadn't told me yet. There's a certain kind of ache that comes from not knowing the truth but already feeling it in your bones. That's where I lived for weeks, somewhere between suspicion and certainty, pretending everything was fine while the foundation of my marriage quietly rotted beneath me. I needed answers, not guesses, not gut feelings, cold, undeniable facts. So I called my cousin Travis. Travis and I had grown up like brothers. He's the kind of guy who speaks in 3-word sentences and always seems to know more than he says. He spent 7 years in private security before switching to freelance surveillance work, divorces, custody battles, corporate stuff. Not a profession for the faint of heart. When I called, I didn't even have to explain. He just asked, "How bad?" "Bad," I said. "But I need to be sure." "Then let's get you sure." The first night we followed her, it almost didn't happen. She claimed she had a team happy hour after work. I told her to have fun, kissed her on the cheek like usual, and watched from the window as she backed out of the driveway in her silver CR-V. 5 minutes later, I was in Travis's old Jeep Cherokee, parked 2 blocks over. We followed her downtown, keeping our distance. She didn't go to the bar she mentioned. Instead, she drove to a small spa hotel outside the city, a place called the Tannery House, quiet, upscale, tucked between a vineyard and a hiking trail. It was the kind of place you book to disappear for a night, not network over drinks. Travis pulled into a dirt turnout across the street. We killed the lights and watched. 7:52 p.m., she stepped out of the car, dressed in a navy trench coat and heels I hadn't seen in months. She adjusted her hair in the rearview mirror, then grabbed a small overnight bag from the back seat, Louis Vuitton, one of the ones I bought her for our anniversary. She looked calm, confident, not sneaking around, just living a different life. A man met her at the front entrance, tall, neatly dressed. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I didn't need to. The body language told me everything. They didn't hug, they didn't kiss. They just looked at each other, smiled like they were sharing an inside joke, and walked into the hotel side by side. It was worse than I thought because it wasn't reckless. It wasn't passion-fueled chaos. It was routine. Travis handed me his phone. "Got it?" he asked. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding like I'd run a marathon without moving. Her smile on the photo looked relaxed, peaceful, like someone unburdened. "Do you want more?" Travis asked. I shook my head. "No," I said. "That's enough." I don't know how long we sat there after that, long enough for the sun to start dipping below the hills, painting the sky in soft orange. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and replaced them with silence. Eventually, she came back out alone, maybe 10 minutes later, just to grab something from the car. Probably. She didn't see us, or if she did, she didn't flinch. She just walked back inside and vanished again. We drove home without speaking. When Travis dropped me off, he clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "You did good. You waited." Most guys don't wait. Most guys catch him in the act and lose their damn minds. I didn't feel like I'd done anything good. I just felt tired. Amber got home the next morning around 10:30. She walked through the door carrying the same overnight bag, sipping a latte. She looked flushed, like she'd had a massage or slept in silk sheets. Maybe she had. "Morning," she said casually. "Sorry I didn't text, I figured you were still asleep." I looked up from the paper and smiled. "All good. Hope it was fun." She nodded, kicked off her shoes, and disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the water running a few minutes later, her usual post-late-night cleanse. I didn't ask where she'd been. I didn't want to hear the story she'd rehearsed. I already knew. That afternoon, I opened the hidden folder on my laptop where I'd saved Travis's photo. I stared at it for a long time, zooming in until her face blurred into pixels. There she was, walking into someone else's life while I sat at home thinking we still had a chance. That was the moment everything clicked for me. Not just that she was cheating, but that she'd moved on, emotionally, physically. She'd made peace with it, even if I hadn't. She was already gone. All that was left was the performance. And me? I was done playing the part. I thought leaving would be the hard part. It wasn't. Not really. The hardest part was what came after, knowing she was going to tear the world apart looking for me and still come up empty. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I needed her to sit in the ruins she'd created. No distractions. No comfort. Just the wreckage she made. She made calls, dozens of them, some to me, blocked, most to anyone we'd ever known together. Friends, neighbors, co-workers, even people she hadn't spoken to in years. I know this because I got messages too, from people I hadn't heard from in months. "Hey man, I don't want to get in the middle, but Amber's been calling me. Says she's worried. Did something happen?" She came by the office crying. I replied to none of them. If they were really in my corner, they would have seen the truth long before I left. I had no explanation. She showed up at my parents' place once. I heard from my mom afterward. She said Amber stood on the porch for 10 minutes, pacing, crying, rehearsing whatever story she'd built in her head. My dad opened the door, took one look at her, and said, "You've done enough," before closing it in her face. After that, she stopped showing up, stopped calling, at least to the people who knew me. But her world started unraveling in other ways. Her work suffered. The job she used to brag about, the one she used as her excuse for so many late nights, started slipping through her fingers. I don't know the details, but I imagine it's hard to run PR campaigns when your own life's falling apart. People talk, even in professional circles. Especially there. Her image, so carefully crafted, cracked, then it crumbled. And the man she risked everything for? He didn't stick around. I don't know exactly when he left. Maybe it was a few weeks after I disappeared. Maybe he got spooked, or maybe he just didn't want the mess that came with a woman unraveling. Either way, he vanished like smoke, quietly, efficiently, the same way I had, except for different reasons. Amber was alone. The savings account she thought would carry her turned out to be paper thin. I had already pulled what was mine. She couldn't keep up with the house, the car, the lifestyle she thought she could maintain without me. She sold the handbag I gave her, listed furniture online, downgraded everything she once swore she'd never compromise on. I heard through someone, maybe a mutual friend, maybe a rumor, that she ended up moving into a small one-bedroom across town. Nothing fancy, month-to-month lease, no pets allowed. She even had to give away her cat, the one she used to call our baby. I always hated that cat, but something about that stuck with me. She reached out once, 6 months after I left. I got a letter, handwritten, postmarked from our old neighborhood. It arrived at my new place, forwarded from an address she couldn't possibly know. She must have tried every variation she could think of until one hit. Inside was a single page. It started with my name. Just Chris, like she was writing an apology to a ghost. She didn't ask where I was. Didn't try to explain. It was just 4 paragraphs of pain, guilt, and something that might have once been love. She said she couldn't sleep, that every corner of the house reminded her of me, that she still made coffee for 2 in the morning out of habit. She didn't ask me to come back. Didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said she was sorry for all of it. Sorry for lying, for pretending, for taking something real and twisting it into something cheap and hollow. She ended the letter with, "You didn't just leave the house, Chris. You left the light, and I can't seem to find it again." I never responded. I folded the letter back into the envelope, tucked it into the bottom drawer of my desk, and left it there. I don't hate her. I don't think I ever will. But I couldn't give her what she was looking for: closure, redemption, another chance to explain. Because here's the truth. When someone burns your house down while you're still inside, you don't go back to watch them cry over the ashes. You rebuild somewhere else, somewhere better. And that's exactly what I was doing. 3 years passed. Not quickly, not like one of those movie montages where pain dissolves into laughter, brunch, and fresh starts in under 2 minutes. No, real healing is slower, clumsier. Some days you feel like you're moving forward, and other days you wake up drowning in memories you didn't ask to revisit. But you keep going anyway. That's what I did. I built a quiet life in Seattle. got the job at the garage, and it turned out to be exactly what I needed. Routine, hands-on work, no suits, no fake smiles. Just wrenches, grease, engines, and honest people. For once, I didn't feel like I was performing. Eventually, I met Lauren. She came in one day with a busted radiator and a calm presence that immediately felt different. We talked, then we talked again. Coffee led to walks, walks led to dinners, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Lauren wasn't flashy. She didn't wear red lipstick or speak in riddles. She didn't hide her phone or bathe in compliments from strangers. She was kind, steady, present, the kind of person who listens, really listens, and tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. We got married at the courthouse on a rainy Tuesday, just the two of us and a couple of friends as witnesses. No rings with secrets behind them. No vows we couldn't keep. Just a simple promise, honesty above all else. I thought I had put the past behind me. At least I thought I had. Then one evening, everything came full circle. My new company, Lauren actually, I'd started doing fleet maintenance for them, was hosting a corporate event at a hotel downtown. Nothing fancy, just one of those holiday mixer things with finger foods, plastic wine cups, and awkward name tags. I didn't want to go, but Lauren said it'd be good to get out, meet people, show my face. So I went. We stood by the catering table, joking about the meatballs and trying to guess who was going to drink too much and embarrass themselves first. I had just reached for a mini quiche when I felt the air shift. You know that feeling like someone's staring at you hard? I turned my head and saw her. Amber. Standing near the registration desk, half in and half out of the ballroom light, holding a coat that looked 2 winters too old, her expression breaking something in me I didn't even know was still there. She looked thinner, not in the way she used to brag about, but in a way that said life had taken more than it gave her. Her hair was tied back, her heels scuffed. Her eyes, those eyes that used to smile with secrets, just looked tired. Hollow. She froze when she saw me, and for a split second I thought she might pretend not to recognize me. But no. Her face crumpled completely, like the weight of everything she'd lost came crashing down in that 1 second. Her hand flew to her mouth, and her eyes welled up instantly, glassy with tears. She didn't move. Just stood there like she couldn't figure out how to take the next step. Lauren touched my arm. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just someone I used to know." Amber's eyes shifted to Lauren. I saw her take in the whole scene, my relaxed posture, the way Lauren leaned gently into me, the ring on her finger that she knew wasn't the one she gave me. I watched her face change. Shock, heartbreak, something close to regret, then acceptance. And I didn't flinch. I didn't walk over. I didn't nod or wave or smile. I just turned back to Lauren and said something dumb about the mini quiches being better than expected, and we moved on. Amber stood there, stranded in a memory that no longer belonged to her. That was the last time I saw her. I don't know what she's doing now. Maybe she moved, maybe she didn't. I don't check. I don't wonder. Because here's the truth. When you finally let go of someone who broke you, you don't look over your shoulder to see if they're watching. You just keep walking. And that's exactly what I did.